On the 25th of April, 1902, I was present at the meeting of the Malaria Committee of the Royal Society, Sir John Kirk in the chair. The Foreign Office had been receiving reports of a serious outbreak of sleeping sickness in Uganda, and Council had requested our committee to advise on the problems posed by the alarming spread of the disease, with its economic and political implications.
Well, now, where were we? Yes. Gentlemen, as you're very well aware, the next item on our agenda is one which causes us all the utmost concern and is attracting considerable international interest. The Ugandan Protectorate is in the throes of a severe epidemic of sleeping sickness. Reports are coming to us from the Colonial Office and other sources that the disease is spreading at an alarming rate. Doctors Albert and John Cook, who first reported the appearance of the disease in East Africa, have informed us that such is the overwhelming number of incurable cases begging for their help that they've had no other choice than to close their missionary hospital in Mengo to these unfortunate wretches.
That is quite disgraceful.
And as usual, our friends at the Colonial and Foreign Office have taken their time to alert us.
Well, as you know, Dr. Manson, by virtue of his association with the Foreign and Colonial Offices, has been doing his utmost to bring home to those concerned the seriousness of the situation.
I'm sure. But what do they intend to do?
Well, as a result of Dr. Manson's efforts, I'm pleased to tell you that events have now taken a step forward. The Foreign Secretary has considered favorably our recommendation that a small commission should be dispatched to investigate the disease.
And how do they expect this commission to be funded?
Well, I have a reply from the Treasury concerning financial arrangements for the support of the proposed investigation. It is agreed the cost of locomotion to and from Uganda and subsistence allowances shall be defrayed by the Treasury. All other expenses to be met by the Royal Society.
In other words, the Treasury are showing their typical generosity.
Yes, well, be that as it may, gentlemen. It now rests with this committee to appoint the members of the commission to be sent out to Uganda.
I hope you realize that it's going to be extremely difficult to find senior and experienced men willing to go.
Yes, perhaps so. There's no doubt we're going to have to look to the younger men. Now, the commission, however small, requires a leader. I would suggest that it should comprise one man who's senior enough to act as this, together with two others. Manson.
I have, as you know, been giving this matter a good deal of thought. Of course, I agree, we need a man in charge. He needs to be a good all-rounder. I would have thought our Cragg scholar at the London School would fill the bill. I'm thinking of Carmichael Lowe. He's youngish, but he's a stickler for discipline, and that will be required. And a chap who I feel will cope with the sort of problems that are bound to arise.
I think Ross feels that Cuthbert Christie might be a possibility.
Yes, he seems to be doing extremely well. He's had a good deal of experience in the tropics, you know, all over the place, Central and South America, Africa, and a stint in the plague laboratory at Bombay, working with Hafkeen. He should be good in the field, I would think.
Well, he might be just the chap to do the field work. He sounds an independent type.
I don't think I'd doubt that.
Independent or not, what we need is some clear evidence as to his scientific ability.
Naturally. I'll look into it.
Well, does anybody have any further suggestions?
No, thank you.
Yes, Manson.
There's been a lot of work done, mainly on the continent, suggesting various bacterial causes of sleeping sickness. We ought to send a good and careful bacteriologist out there now we've got the chance.
Manson, isn't a very promising young chap at the London?
Oh, you mean George Sowden?
Yes, yes.
Yes, well, he's only just qualified as far as I know. He's very young. Still, he's done very well so far. If he'll go, he'd be as good as anybody.
If he'll go.
Well, I must say, we don't seem to be inundated with suitable candidates for this commission. So, am I to assume that we're agreed to proceed with the matter, apropos Lowe, Sowden and Christie's willingness and suitability, in order to give the Foreign Office a quick decision?
Yes.
Good. Then I would suggest that this committee resolves that the government grant body be requested to initiate a grant of £600 towards the expenses of the investigation. Finally, there's the matter of apparatus and equipment. I would suggest that these problems are referred to Colonel Bruce, Sir Michael, Dr. Manson, and Major Ross, who will kindly deal with them and report back to us. Agreed?
Oh, yes.
Now, gentlemen, time passes, and we must turn our attention to another matter. I have here a letter relating to an outbreak of fever in St. Lucia.
I only heard about it yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Damn pity Souden can't go. We had to expect something like this.
Christie's accepted there, hasn't he?
Oh, yes, quite definite about it.
Thank God for that. I thought he'd jump at the chance to get out there.
One more to add to his list of trophies.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Ah, Patrick.
Good evening, Patrick. I thought we might make our task more congenial by meeting here. You have dined, I presume.
Oh, indeed. I'm just waiting for a good glass of port now.
I think we would all welcome that. All agree, Stuart?
Well, what do you think of the news?
About Souden, you mean? You know.
Oh, yes. A little bird told me. But what I thought you'd all be talking about is this plan of running trains underneath London.
Yes, I saw that. They're calling it a tube system to the suburbs.
How absurd.
What we ought to be thinking about is who's going to take Souden's place. We're badly in need of a bacteriologist for Entebbe.
You suggested that you might be able to recommend somebody from the London school.
Well, maybe. As a last resort. Are you sure there isn't any young officer you could recommend?
Unfortunately, no. It's a great pity. I'd go myself if the War Office would pay me properly.
Well, you know the War Office better than I do, David. But I fear they won't cough up a single penny they don't have to. No doubt you'll all be amused to hear that when I asked my senior class if any of them would like to go out to Uganda, every damn one of them stood up.
Really?
So we're setting up a little examination next week. And the man who comes out on top might be offered the chance to go, provided he has the character to take it on. They're all very young to be pushed into the situation in Uganda. But maybe it's for the best. One mustn't underestimate youth, you know.
And when can you let us know the result of your competition?
Oh, early next week. There's no sense in procrastinating.
Then we will have our decision in good time for the next council meeting.
Oh, yes.
I suppose you haven't got anybody up your sleeve.
Well, there is a very good young Italian in the class, but we'll see.
Yes, well, perhaps we'd better get down to details of equipment and the program that this kindergarten is to undertake. Seems to me we must spell out very clearly just what's expected of them. Above all, we must specify absolute loyalty to the society. Publication. Discussion of results.
Good Lord, Castellani, you're still working.
I'm afraid so, George.
You must have been sitting at that bench all day. You know, you have to slow up a bit or you'll go mad.
Oh, my dear George. Sometimes I think I am beginning to go a little mad. I see things down the microscope, and yet out here I feel quite unable to believe in what I see. Nothing seems certain. If it was not for your encouragement, I couldn't go on.
Come on, things aren't so bad. You're lucky. At least you got something positive to show for your time out here. I came out believing I was going to make my name sorting out Manson's Filaria Perstons to the resounding glory of the London school. And what do I find? The medical officers out here have proved that Filaria Perstons has nothing whatever to do with sleeping sickness. Moffat and I have merely confirmed Hodges and Wiggins' work. And no doubt all we need now is for that bastard Christie to put in his brilliant report to finally bury the parasite for good. God knows where he's got to. I haven't seen him for weeks. According to Wiggins, he's out chasing butterflies most of the time when he's not kicking baskets of rotten eggs over African chiefs or threatening people with guns. Thank God he's not here.
I wonder what Christie thought when Wiggins told that chief he was balmy, eh? And suffered from the brainstorms. He was sure they were both going to be murdered. They were very lucky to escape.
Well, he was right about the brainstorms.
Yes.
Well, and what's gone wrong today?
Oh, you know how I worry. Although I am sure I have discovered a new strep, I haven't seen it in enough cases to completely prove its significance. I just need a few more positive post-mortems.
You know, you really ought to write up your results, even though it is early days. Why don't you put together a paper for the Royal Society and I'll send it in with my report? Well, at least it'll show them that we haven't been idle.
Don't you think I ought to get a few more positive results first? Although I'm sure it is this strep, I still have to prove it.
Well, you must certainly continue the work so that you have enough cases documented to prove that the strep is the cause. And that's going to take time. I think it'd be a pity not to put in a preliminary report at this stage. I mean, after all, you're pretty sure that your results so far are accurate and highly suggestive, and you're only going to say that much. You really ought to get your name attached to the discovery, you know. If you wait too long, somebody else will get in there before us. And your theory that this gem is the cause of sleeping sickness is well, it's the one good thing to come out of this commission. And don't forget that Moffat and his friends have got a disaster on their hands with this epidemic. And they're more than keen to get on with plans to isolate cases to prevent the spread of the disease.
I'm so afraid I might not be right, George. I couldn't bear to make a fool of myself and let us all down. The Foreign Office will be involved with the isolation plans. Just think what they'll say about that young Italian, huh? If I involve them in all of that money. And I'm wrong.
But nonsense. I mean, what if you're right? And you can come up with a vaccine one day. Think of the lives you may save. Anyway, pack up now and get that report off your chest tomorrow.
I'll just carry on a little while longer, huh?
Well, not too long. I'll see you later.
Dr. Moffat, yes, sir.
Hello, Castellani.
Oh, hello, Moffat. It's good to see you.
You're all right. You look as though you haven't slept for nights.
Oh, I don't think there is anything seriously wrong. I'm just tired.
Well, the last couple of months have been rather difficult for you, now that Lowe's gone home. And of course, your other team member, Christie, hasn't exactly been available. Life out here can take a lot out of you, as you are finding out, young man. We all seem to survive, you know. Look, Castellani, I've had some news via Government House.
My paper?
Yes. The Royal Society has still been difficult over publishing it. The Foreign Office is pushing really hard now for a positive opinion so they can go ahead with plans for the isolation of cases and money for the production of a vaccine.
But what about the results?
Well, despite your increased evidence for the strep, the Royal Society will not commit themselves very far on the question of its significance.
Do they realize?
Some money is available for the isolation of cases, but they feel that the epidemic is a matter of imperial significance. And in a nutshell, they're sending out the big guns. They should be here by the middle of March.
But who, Moffat? Who?
A Dr. Nabarro, a first-class young scientist, together with Colonel Bruce. No doubt she'll be getting a letter in a week or two explaining all this. Oh, I hope you don't go and take this the wrong way. I know Colonel Bruce can be a bit of a bear, but I'm sure you'll find them both helpful. And you won't be on your own. And I believe Mrs. Bruce is a very kind woman, also a very talented one, though she must have a hard time making up for her husband's boorishness. Anyway, don't forget to come and see me if you're feeling worried. You must look after your health.
Madonna. They're still not going to publish my paper. I must be sure I'm wrong. I wish I knew what George told them last month. I knew it was too good to be true. So quickly.
You really ought to get your name attached to the discovery, you know.
Don't you think I ought to get a few more positive results first?
I mean, what if you're right?
Still only finding the strep in the terminal stages. Never in the early stages. Maybe it's just a secondary infection. My God. It may be the trypanosome. Positive since November. And one in the blood just before Christmas. Why didn't I tell George before he left? Oh, don't be stupid. Perstans was just like the trip, and Manson was wrong. Miseria, Manson can afford to be wrong. That's why they're sending out Bruce. He has suspected that trypanosome is the cause. Oh, I should have told George. What a fool I look. I'm so afraid I might not be right, George. If it is the trypanosome, I can just see Bruce telling me how stupid I've been because I missed it. someone about my discovery. Or someone else will take the credit.
Castellani, exciting news. Baker has made a most marvelous discovery. And we want you to have a look at it and tell us what you think.
Of course, Moffat. Anything I can do.
Come in. Come in. Rococo, Rococo.
Has Moffat told you, Castellani?
Only that you have made a wonderful discovery.
Well, this constable came to see me this morning, not feeling too well. He has a history of... No, I won't tell you any more, but I would be very grateful for your opinion on his blood.
Of course. I'm just going to take a sample of blood from your finger.
Yes, sir, I know.
Well, as you are both well aware, these are trypanosomes.
You agree?
No doubt.
There, Baker. You're famous.
Moffat, you realize what this means, don't you? We have trypanosome fever here now as well as in the Gambia. If this thing gets going, we're going to have 2 major epidemics on our hands.
As though the sleeping sickness wasn't enough, eh?
I wonder if the trips could be carried by something like a tsetse fly. I'm going to
Trips
collect
in
as
the
many flies as I
blood.
possibly can. It shouldn't take me too long.
I must tell Baker about my discovery.
I should have quite a few by the time Colonel Bruce arrives. He ought to be very interested in all this.
Well, that's really quite something. Hey, Castellani.
Yes, yes.
Well, we'll see about that.
Now, don't you go underestimating your discovery, Baker. It's about time we colonial doctors were appreciated for our work. Not all the brains are in London and Liverpool. Look how Dutton took over Forbes' case in Bathurst. Well, we're just expected to deal with the routine stuff. No thanks, money, or time to do anything grand as research. That's left to the real scientists from home.
Moffat.
Please excuse my enthusiasm for my colleagues. Right. Well, Maui Jati.
Thanks again, Castellani.
Oh, Baker,
Yes?
there is something I must tell you.
Morning, Castellani. Fine morning.
Yes, it's very fresh.
Well, I hope they're on time. Colonel Bruce likes to be punctual.
Hey, look, Moffat, something has been worrying me, huh? I must talk with you, but you must give me your promise that you will not tell anyone what I'm going to say.
Of course. What's the matter?
Since Law went home, I have examined quite a few cases of sleeping sickness. And in a number of these cases, I have found trypanosomes in the cerebrospinal fluid.
Good heavens, Castellani. That may have something to do with the disease.
No, I don't think that for a moment. I think the presence of the trypanosomes is merely an accident, just like the filaria perstans we found in so many cases. I'm not sure it is of any importance as regards the sleeping sickness, and I have only told you because I do not intend to tell Colonel Bruce.
What? Well, why on earth not?
I only want you to know, because after I have left, he may come across it himself,
Yes.
and then you will be able to tell him that I have already discovered it.
Well, I suppose you know what you're doing. I will honor your confidence.
I knew you would. Thank you.
what you're doing. They've got valuable scientific instruments in there. Damn awful country, this. I'm glad to get all our stuff safely off the boat. What a journey.
Well, I shan't be sorry to land. But it hasn't been too bad, really.
You realize, I suppose, it'll take quite some time to get all our luggage off? Shouldn't be surprised if we land up with a load of mangoes when it's all unpacked in the laboratories.
Well, a few mangoes might be rather nice. We might find something far less acceptable.
God, what a journey.
David, I can see the pier. Won't be long now. I think I can see some people waiting for us.
Well, I sincerely hope that Dr. Castellani is among them. I think of all those telegrams. First he's going home, then he's going to meet me in Mombasa. Then at the last minute he thinks he'll meet me here. Heaven help the little eye-tie if he doesn't turn up this time. I'm lucky to get that paper published at all.
What was that, David?
I said he's been damn lucky to get that paper if it's published at all.
But he's so young. Must have been very difficult for him out here.
My dear, as always, you are being too kind. He's behaved very badly.
But let's jump to conclusions. May not be nearly as bad as you fear. And you know you're dying to get into that lab to find out what's really going on.
But he didn't come out a damn soon earlier. The whole thing's a complete mess.
I'm sure you'll feel quite differently when you meet him, David.
Dr. Moffat, sir. I hope you had a good trip. Oh, and you too, Mrs. Bruce.
Not at all bad, thank you, Dr. Moffat.
Nevertheless, I'm sure you must be both quite tired. I should like to introduce some of my colleagues before you get rushed off to see the Commissioner. Dr. Baker, one of my medical officers. I'm sure you'll be as pleased as we are at our great news. Dr. Baker's made a great discovery. Only 2 or 3 days ago, he discovered trypanosomes in the blood of one of his patients. A man from Uganda.
Oh, that's really very interesting. Well done.
Oh, and have you met Dr. Castellani?
Yes, I've waited quite some time for this. Before I say anything else, Castellani, I must tell you that I consider your behavior as disgraceful.
Please, sit down, Colonel Bruce. Would you like a drink?
No, thank you. We'll go through your work first.
Of course. But before I show you my work, I want to tell you something in confidence.
Oh, yeah?
It is very important to me, and it is only since this morning that I've decided to tell you. But I want you to promise certain things before I do so.
I'm not in the habit of making promises. What on earth is all this nonsense, Castellani? You're not going off your head, are you?
No. No, there are many times out here when I have thought I was going off my head. But I can assure you, I'm perfectly sane about what I'm going to tell you now.
This is not a personal matter, I take it?
Oh, extremely personal to me. It concerns my work. I have discovered something which I begin to think may be of importance. At first I did not, but now I quite simply do not know. And I must do more work to settle the question.
Well, what are these conditions?
First, and that I may remain a few weeks more in Uganda to continue my experiments. And secondly, that while my work, until my departure from Uganda, will be independent and my own. And thirdly, that at the end of my stay in Uganda, I shall write a paper. And this paper will bear my name only.
Well, I suppose it could be worse.
Will you agree to these conditions, Colonel Bruce?
I don't seem to have any choice. Would you better make sure that this paper you're going to write is a damn sight better than the one you sent us in October? Well, no. I think perhaps you'd better tell me what it is you found that you think may be so important.
Last November, not long before Dr. Lowe left for England, I was looking for streps in specimens of cerebrospinal fluid taken from cases of a sleeping sickness. I had had the idea of centrifuging the fluid in order to catch any bacteria in the deposit and increase my chances of finding them.
Yes, yes.
I found a trypanosome.
Did you, by Jove? Are you sure? Have you found trips in any other cases?
Oh, yes. I've looked at 15 cases and found trips in the fluid of 5 of them. I also found a trip in the blood of one of these cases, just before Christmas.
Well, that's interesting. There's no good speculating about this. You're sure it's trips that you're seeing?
Of course, sir. Identical with the ones Dr. Baker found in his policeman.
How much longer do you need here?
About a month.
Well, since I'm forced to accept your terms, you better get started. You're on your own as far as experiments are concerned. Mrs. Bruce and I, together with Sergeant Gibbons, will give you all the technical help you need. Just make sure the others don't know what you're about. It means keeping them out of the laboratory. That's not going to be easy.
Thank you, Colonel. Also, when I have finished my paper, would you be kind enough to look at it and correct any of my language mistakes?
Yes, yes, of course. Now, first things first. Number 1, you must show me how you carry out this examination and demonstrate the presence of a trypanosome. That'll give us a starting point, anyway. And if you can't do that, the whole thing is off. Of course, the trypanosome, assuming it's there, may be of no more significance than the Filaria perstans. These natives are full of parasites. But on the other hand, as you well know, it could be of enormous significance if it turns out to be the specific cause of sleeping sickness. Now, I can have no opinions in this matter until I have more evidence. It's going to take a lot of hard work and quite little time. I must say that I tend to think that the bacterial agent is more likely. I personally would put my money on the streptococcus.
Oh, yes, but if you look at...
But that is mere guesswork at this stage. Now, you must keep an open mind on this too, Castellani. It's a very serious situation in Uganda. And the Foreign Office is pressing the Royal Society for a firm decision so that they can get money from the Treasury to go ahead with their segregation plans and, of course, the search for a vaccine. As yet, we have no proof of the nature of the agent against which we're expected to make a vaccine, God help us. The Royal Society is in a very difficult position. Without watertight evidence to support our views, we expose ourselves to severe criticism and discredit. That's why we didn't rush to publish your preliminary report. I'm sure you understand now a little better just why we acted as we did. But that's enough for one evening. Well, little did I know when I set out just what I was going to hear. We haven't even looked at your notebooks yet. Tomorrow you must show me your centrifuging technique, find the trypanosome, I hope, and then later in the day we'll go through the bacterial work. And don't forget, an open mind.
Yes, Colonel.
Now, what about that drink, eh?
On April the 5th, 1903, I left Entebbe and returned to London. Later that year, I was appointed director of the Bacteriological Institute in Colombo, where I spent 12 happy years, saddened only by the unjust allegations about my discovery in Entebbe. The suggestion that I was unaware of the possible role of the trypanosome as the cause of sleeping sickness, before David Bruce suggested it to me, is untrue. At that time, I considered both the trypanosome and the streptococcus as the possible cause. However, I have survived these criticisms and hope that my discovery has been of some value in the understanding of sleeping sickness.